Did you know that the very first programmer was a woman? The Right Honorable Countess of Lovelace, Ada Lovelace, was the very first person to start with programming. Ada Lovelace, née Byron, the only legitimate child of, here we go. Sorry, I had a echo. So, Ada Lovelace, née Byron, starting once again, was the only legitimate child of Lord Byron, the poet, and the reformer Anne Millbank. Her mother was anxious about her upbringing and promoted Ada's interest in mathematics and logic. In an effort to prevent her from developing her father's perceived insanity. A very warm welcome to SAP BGP Ask Me Anything session. I'm Tania from the Global Users Organization. Today, we will see SAP's latest programming solution, SAP Build Code. With me, as you can see, I have 3 experts whom I shall introduce shortly. And in the background, there's an entire team to assist with your questions. We therefore invite you to actively engage in the session by asking questions and sharing your thoughts. Please post your questions in the chat and make sure that you ask complete questions and give the context. This will make it easier for our experts to answer your questions. And now, let me introduce our experts for today. And here we go. Our 3 experts, starting with Tim Buck. He is the Chief Development Architect for SAP B2B Application Development, Automation, and Integration. And he is a recognized speaker in various events, including SAP TechEd, Sapphire, and Devtoberfest. Then we have Rupa Maity. She works closely with customers and partners to help the, sorry, I have to have a look here, to help them innovate rapidly in their organizations using our strong portfolio of application development products. Last but not least, we have Yuval Anafi. He is lead product owner of SAP Business Application Studio and SAP Build Code developer. And he is currently focusing on bringing together all SAP technology innovations to SAP developers community, including the recently announced SAP Build Code. And now, with this, I would like to hand over to Tim Buck. Over to you.
Thanks, Tania. Let me share my desktop. I hope you can see my desktop.
Yes.
Okay, so let me start introducing Build Code in a demo to you. So Build Code is a new product which actually was announced today. It's generally available as of today, and it's also available on trial. Let me tell you about a couple of key features and mainly show you about it. It actually helps SAP developers to create applications really fast in a much faster way. In all aspects than you could do it before. And it starts with the onboarding experience of using Build Code. So what you have, you're in a global account of the business technology platform and you want to set up Build Code. We have a so-called booster. Let me look for Build Code. So you find this, as I said, as of today, you will find that if your administrator has or if your company has built it or you subscribe to it via trial, then you will actually get this booster, and then you can start this booster and it will set up the whole development environment for you. That takes a couple of minutes and it provisions the most important technologies and the services including the Business Application Studio as the IDE of Build Code at your fingertips, more or less. It does it in one go. And once this, I will not go through this creation because it takes a couple of minutes. Once you finish that booster, you will see the service Build Code in your list of services in the sub account that was created. And you can actually then press on this service, which I do now, and you get into the so-called lobby. Some of you might have seen the lobby before. It's actually an entry point for the SAP Build product, but it's also now used for SAP Build Code, so our new product. And you can basically, what you do in the lobby as a developer, you actually organize your project, whether there are low code, no code projects from Build, or whether you are a professional developer using Build Code. So Build Code is for professional developers, and you can actually maintain your projects here. And let me now actually start a new project. I can press create here, and I would see this dialog. It would ask me what I want to do. If I want to create an automated process or build a site, this would be the build product, but we want to do Build Code, so the new product. We want to build an application. So when we choose build application, we have once again two flavors. Again, build apps, which is from the build product. But again, we want to go for Build Code. So we are going for Build Code. And then at the moment, we have two flavors. There will be more, but you can either create a sub-Fiori application, so just the front-end application, if you already have a backend service, for example. Or, and that's what we're going to do today, is we create a full stack application. So full stack application means we have a back end running on the BTP and we have a front end. So the back end will be a CAP, Cloud Application Programming Model based, and it will be a data model. It will be, of course, like a database, and there will be a service on top of it, and an OData service. And then, as mentioned, we will create a UI application. And we'll get in some more detail about this. So I would press full stack application. Then I would come up with a name here, like our scenario today that I'm going to show is risk management. And I would press the create button, because again, this takes a couple of seconds. I have already prepared that. And at the end of the process, you would be taken into the Business Application Studio. So you can see I created the project risk management already. You get to this screen, which you can say it's largely empty at the moment. You have a project tree. You can work with the project tree, or what we call here the so-called storyboard, or both together. I'll just switch off the project tree and just show you the storyboard. And you can see there's not much on it. There's a couple of options what we can do. And what we can do in such an application is we could create a data model. So basically the database tables that will end up in HANA, we can create services on top of these data models. And this we can do in almost no time and get like a fully running OData service based on the Cloud Application Programming Model CAP. We can then create a UI application, and that's what we will do afterwards, which could be either Fiori Elements, a Fiori Elements application, a Freestyle UI5 application, or it could also be based on the MDK, our mobile development toolkit. Last but not least, you can also introduce external resources, because I'm not making this part of the demo. I'll quickly show you what that would look like. So you can press on this, you get into something like the service. It's called Service Center, and it shows you all the APIs in your systems at your fingertips that might actually be the ones that an administrator has shown or has administered on the account. It might be also something from the Accelerator Hub, right? Like our kind of yellow pages for APIs. And so you can explore and look at the APIs there, and then you could actually take them over into your project. As I said, we are not going to do this in this demo, but we'll concentrate on just, you could say, a data model and a service and a UI application. And now we could do this manually, right? So the one key feature of Build Code is that it actually gives you a lot of visual editors. So you get like productivity tools, as we call them. and you don't have to code everything manually. You can, and we'll get back to this, but you'll get a lot of visual editors, and really, as you will see in the demo in a couple of minutes, you can create visually some new application. But these days, obviously, there is even something better than visual editors. It's, of course, generative AI. And we have implemented, we are delivering Build Code with generative AI, and let's actually use that first. So let's say I want to use the generative AI to start from scratch. I can go here, there's a so-called guide center, and there are a lot of guides here, and one of them is the generative AI powered development. So if I press on this, it, as the name implies, it guides me through different steps that I want to do. And the first thing that I want to do is create a CAP service and a data service based on a data model and a service creation. If I open this, I can then press the button Open Joule. Joule, of course, is our generative AI assistant that SAP has announced last year. And we have already implemented Joule here. And I'm using a shortcut here to not write like this has nothing to do with the product, but so I don't have to type all this text in front of you. I'm using this shortcut and start generative AI. While it's thinking, we can actually look a bit into what, as a user, I normally manually write. I would say create a risk management application with risk and mitigations, and I give it a couple of things, pointers. It should have realistic properties, and one should be impact and criticality, and they should be integer. And then as a developer, you can actually see the result. So this is code. This is the so-called CDS format, so the basis of CAP, and also even in ABAP you have CDS. And you can see your entities, and you can actually check that here, and you can say, well, it looks good. Risk and mitigations, I asked for that. Impact and criticality, I asked, it should be an integer, and mitigations should be associated with the risk. So this all looks fine. And then I take it over, and I can also close Joule. And then in 1 or 2 seconds, it takes it over, and we can already see there's data model and the service there. And actually, now we have a fully running OData service already, right? But this OData service, the standard OData service on these 2 entities, and you could do normal CRUD operations. But that, to make it a bit more interesting, we would say, well, we actually, for the risks entity of the service, we want to add some business logic. So we can go into the graphical modeler. So the graphical modeler is as the name says, graphical representation of the entities and their relations. And that's also the point where you can actually manually do stuff, right? I could go into show details here and then manually add some stuff. But again, we want to apply some more generative AI. So I can click on risks. And remember, I said I want to add some logic. So I'll apply this button, add some logic here, and it takes me into a dialog where I can say what the name of that function is. I can say add, and this is still part of the cloud application programming modeling model. It gives you an option to add handlers at certain, you could say, events, right? So for example, for risks, I can say apply a handler after risks are read on the database. Or if there is a request from a UI, for example, to read something, I can say after the data is read, this handler should be applied. And normally, what would happen is I will be taken into a JavaScript editor, and as a developer, I would have to write some JavaScript code. That's a mixture between normal JavaScript and then some CAP interfaces that you have. But you see already Joule is looming on the left-hand side, and that's because we can again use Joule actually to generate some logic. And in this case, it's a pretty basic and easy logic. It just says, if you remember, if the impact, there's an impact field and a criticality field in the risk entity that we created, and it just says if the impact is greater than $10,000, it's set to criticality is set to 1 and otherwise to 2. I actually, while I'm saying that, I forgot to actually mention, you might have seen it, when we first created the data model, I also said that the impact should actually be between $1 and $20,000. And that's something that also implies some data is actually created, some sample data in the back, which I haven't shown you, but you'll see later that this has happened. And again, it comes up with something. Some might argue, well, that's so easy. I could have written this myself quite easily. But, you can believe me, there is obviously much more complicated stuff possible. And even there, you see a couple of hints. Well, it knows the criticality field is actually called criticality, and an impact field, it knows, well, this whole thing that could be an array. So it could be a collection of risks, or it could be one risk. So it comes up with the result and it looks nice. And I haven't coded anything. It just suggested it to me, and it's fine. So going back, now I have the service, which is a bit more complicated. And now let's go to the next step and create a UI application. So I press this button and it comes up with the next dialogue. This time it's not AI anymore. It's just in inverted commas, it's just a productivity tool, a wizard that nicely takes me through the creation of a UI on top of this service. So I call it risks. Then the next step, I'm asked, like, what is this? What should the UI application be? Is it a template-based responsive application, which is Fiori Elements for those who know? On the right-hand side, it's the MDK. It's a mobile development kit application. So this, of course, is like for mobile. It can also be used on the desktop, but it's optimized for mobile. Fiori Elements, you could say, is the other way around. You can also use it on mobile, but it's optimized for desktops, really, and for, let's say, bigger tables like this. And so both you can use basically everywhere, but depending on where your use case mainly is, you would choose one or the other. There's a couple of other features that are different there, but I'm not going to go into this in this demo. I have chosen Fiori Elements, so the left-hand side, and I'm asked for a couple of templates. I go for the list report with an object page, so a nice list, and then a detail page, and it asks me, well, which of the two entities, risks and mitigations, is it that I want to base my application on? And I'm saying I want to base that on risks. So now in the back, a Fiori Elements application is created. That takes a couple of seconds. So you can see it's already there, but it still does some, for those who are in the know, does an npm install in the back, and it creates the complete application. So let's give it another 5 seconds or so. We'll wait for that. And yeah, at the end of this, you are taken to the so-called page editor, and you see there are 2 pages already, a list and an object page. Let's have a look at the list itself. It comes up with a UI like this. It already has created columns for me. So the columns are, of course, based on what you have in the service. We have impact, criticality there. And again, we already have now a running application. But we, again, want to make things a bit more interesting. And we can say, well, criticality, that's a 1 or a 2, a number that doesn't say much. We don't really want that field with a 1 or 2 on the UI. So I'm just deleting it. I'd much rather decorate impact with basically what the criticality is. So I'm going to the impact field and press on it. And then there are a couple of things that I can change here. And one of the things I can do is, well, there is something officially that's called criticality, and I can bind the criticality to a value. And so I'm binding it to my field that's called criticality. So depending on what's in that field, it will show me different criticality. And it asks me, well, how should it be represented, just with a color or also with an icon? We are a bit drama queens, so we want a bit more drama. And so with this, we can also then see the UI. Let me now let me now press on the preview. So another nice feature of Build Code and the Business Application Studio. You don't have to deploy this application to the BTP. When I say it's a Build Code, it's mainly a feature of CAP and Fiori Elements, and Business Application Studio in Build Code makes a lot of use of that. We can just go to this and have a default, as it is called, run configuration, and press this green button. And now we will get a preview of the application that's not yet deployed. So we get like a really fast turnaround, and we can have a look at the application itself. And so after a couple of seconds, we get this into this kind of nice overview page. You see our services here, for example, and I could go, for example, and look into risk. So I got a full-blown OData service here. And check, I could have the queries there and try it out, but we want to see the application. We just have one application, so just one tile is shown. So I press on risk, I get into my application, I press go, and I see a result, and I see a quite nice result. For one, I already see also sample data. I mentioned with generative AI, it also created sample data where I had asked, like, should it be the impact between $1 and $10,000? And you see it nicely does that. But you also see the criticality is applied. You remember our criteria was once the impact is greater than $10,000, criticality should be 1. Otherwise, it should be 2. And that's how it ends up. And maybe last but not least, of course, you can also edit here. Press the edit button. You get nice F4 helps, for example, also for the mitigations that were also created. So you got a fully running full stack application in no time. And then really as a last bit, going back to the Business Application Studio, I can also quickly tell you, you've seen we have not actually coded anything, right? We've not actually coded. We've done everything with generative AI or with wizards or visual tools. But maybe at some point, and maybe now you don't want to deal with these things anymore. That was really nice and really powerful to get you to this stage. But actually now you would like to, because you're a professional developer, you would actually like to do some coding stuff. And maybe you have to because the tool doesn't help you anymore. So at any time, you can actually switch to the code. And this is the important part. Whatever is created here is a normal CAP and Fiori Elements based project, as any developer could write it manually without having any of these editors open. I can actually also show, and it's important, I can close all the editors and we can go into this and basically look, for example, at the schema CDS, so the CDS file from CAP. And I could go ahead and do my changes here and don't use the tools anymore. And you see also from the overall outfit, something that's really important. The Business Application Studio is based on visual code, right? So you have like a visual code outfit here, and you don't need the productivity tools anymore if you don't like to have them anymore. And that's the power of it. At any time, you can switch to the code and do code. Last thing I really want to say is also a deployment. I'm just going to start the deployment to show you, and then it should be enough for this short demo. For those who are in the know, normally in the BTP, what you have to do to deploy, you have to create a so-called MTA file. Quite a big thing and quite hard to maintain. You got so far some tools to help you with it, but nothing as comprehensive as what you will see now. At the moment, you see nothing. You don't see an MTA file. But let's say I now want to create a deployment. I can go here and say deploy the project. And once I do that, and we can go back actually to the file system, we see something is happening here, and you see actually there's an MTA YAML. And you see this is like a more than 200 lines of code file. That file you will now get generated just by saying deploy. It kind of this file is basically the file that knows, or this is the instruction for the deployment, what should be part of the deployment, the service, the the underlying, also the CAP service, the underlying services that are needed for the whole thing, and also the UIs. And this is all generated for you. So I'm not going to continue here. I think it's also now enough of a short demo. It just maybe one last sentence again, right? You've seen CAP, you've seen Fiori Elements, you've seen the Business Application Studio, but just know that Build Code also consists of a lot of services from the BTP, like the document service, that come automatically with the purchase of Build Code and that you can immediately use. So you get like all the things that we think are really important for creating full-blown business applications with, let's say, the best of class in our developer guidance, technologies and services on the BTP. You get them at your fingertips with Build Code. And with that, I would stop sharing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. And we already have many questions. I would like to start with the question we always get from the user group members. Can I try it for free? And if yes, is there a limit?
Yes, so I can take that. Yes, Tim mentioned that Build Code is generally available from today. And we also have a free plan. So if you already have a CPA plan, you can go ahead and jump onto the free plan. If you would like to give it a go in trial, we also have a trial plan. So you can make use of trial to try it out for free. Is there a limit? Yes. So there are some limits. We can share the links for the limits. So standard limits like probably like 2 bills and things are there. And we can share the links in for everybody.
Great, thank you. Actually, the link is already posted in the chat. Awesome. The next question from the chat. What are the key differences between SAP Build Code and the SAP Business Application Studio?
Okay, maybe I'll take that as well, give Tim a chance to rest. Well, I think that would not be a fair comparison. I think Tim already mentioned that Build Code gives you a lot of services and application frameworks that you require to build your extensions. And Business Application Studio is, in fact, the IDE within Build Code. So ultimately, it's everything that you have in Business Application Studio is available for you as the design time of Build Code. And if we were to highlight some of the key features of Build Code, along with the services, so document management service, CI/CD service, all of those that Tim mentioned. Along with that, you also get a really great integration with the SAP Build Lobby. So that helps you collaborate and build solutions across the build portfolio. So you could build something which comprises both or multiple offerings. So build process automation, build apps, and build code. And you can also use the SAP Build Lobby for its great project managed capabilities. So you get all the build code projects in the lobby. You also get Joule as a part of Build Code. So that's the demo that you just saw. And it gives you great features to help you generate your applications very, very quickly. And then inside the IDE of Build Code, we also have provided inbuilt tutorials, so guided development for the full stack applications and many more to come. So these follow the BTP developers guide. It makes it very easy for new users to get started and build their first application. So these are some of the great features that we have in Build Code.
Thank you so much for providing all the details. Next question, is there any possibility that customers can build a plugin on Build Code? For example, seamless integration with customers' in-house API portal, in addition to S/4HANA?
Yeah, hi. So the answer is yes. SAP Build Code, which is the development environment, is based on Business Application Studio. And as Tim Back mentioned earlier, the IDE is based on Microsoft called OSS open source, which basically opens the door for developers to build extensions like VS Code extensions and then apply it to their landscape very easily. As you can imagine, the community and API for extending the development environment is very flexible and powerful. So this is very easy to do. If you would like to extend SAP tools, then this is a different question, and we can check it one by one. For example, if you are familiar with the application wizard, this is one thing that you can, as a customer or partner, incorporate your own application templates into the UI of the application wizard. So this is something that we also offer. So the answer is yes. And if you want to integrate into SAP tools, so this is case by case.
Thank you very much, Yuval. Next, can Joule improve or change the entity after the first creation?
Yeah, I can also answer that. So at the moment, no. So this is something that we're working on. So we, of course, would like to help developers to reiterate on existing projects, existing data models, to improve it and integrate new changes into existing code line. So this is in work, and we hope to have it very soon available into the product.
Great, thank you. Can we also enable Joule in BAS?
Yeah, I can take that as well. Okay, so if you would like to have Joule, you would need to upgrade from Business Application Studio to SAP Build Code. It should, so very soon we will notify about the ability to upgrade from Business Application Studio to SAP Build Code, keeping everything you invested in as it is. So you will not lose anything, and we'll just upgrade Business Application Studio service to a new service plan. It will be in a shape of a new service plan called SAP Build Code for Business Application Studio. And from this point on, you can continue and with all the nice features that we saw here for SAP Build Code. So it should be very seamless upgrade for you.
Well, thank you. Next question, will Joule only work when navigated from the build lobby, or will it be available in BAS automatically once we subscribe to Build Code?
Yes, so it will be available even if you navigate to Business Application Studio outside of the lobby, even though in Build Code, the lobby is the way to navigate into any of your projects. So as I said, Joule is only available with SAP Build Code. If you would like to use it from Business Application Studio, you would need to upgrade to Build Code. And once you do that, you can navigate, of course, from the lobby. And if you would prefer to navigate from other places like the Dev Space Manager, this would be also possible, depending on the license you have for SAP Build Code.
Thank you. Next one. It seems Joule is only being used in very specific cases. What if I ask Joule to do more complex jobs like generate a specific Fiori element annotation, fix problem with MTA file, or security configuration? Would these be possible?
I can take this one. First of all, you've not seen it all. There is some things, especially when it comes to the UI, Freestyle UI5 and the generation of Fiori Elements application, That's actually added in the next couple of days, pretty soon, to Build Code, and you can also do that. The Fiori Elements one, you can create the complete application also with the UI. UI 5 is actually also in the direction of the question already. UI 5 does go much more low level, and it's also conversational. So what was asked before about the changes for entities that Yuval has answered, like this would definitely be possible with UI 5 parts, so you can enhance it steadily. By the way, I also want to say also the bit that I showed with the code, that is also conversational. You can, for example, like, you know, the colleague asked me, for example, just last week, can you add comments to what was just generated? And you just say add comments, and it adds comments. But more specifically to the ones that were asked here, Fiori element annotations, which, you know, are, if you're honest, very often a pain to write, you know, usual normal code, and MTA, another one, which I also outlined, is really hard. At the moment, what you saw in the product doesn't support these questions, but you can bank on this being added as we go along. I would say a lot of this even in the next couple of months, definitely this year. Also having specific questions about any technology in BTP. We have stuff in the making that would help you with that. So yes, like while at the moment you see things that are very restricted to, like, let's say CAP and then maybe Fiori Elements and UI 5, but we'll open it up also for the other technologies which belong to our developers guidance.
Oh, thank you. Next question. Can you please provide more details on the services included in SAP Build Code?
There are quite a few services and application frameworks that are a part of SAP Build Code. So we have continuous integration and delivery, which is CI/CD service. We have the event broker service, application autoscaler service, alert notification, cloud logging, and destination service. So we have quite a few. Let me not take up the entire time. We'll post the link for the documentation so that the viewers can go through it.
Oh, thank you. Next one. Does Build Code only support S/4HANA or also support other LOBs?
So Build Code supports all kinds of SAP LOB systems as well as non-SAP systems. So Tim showed the service center. If you are on an S4 system, which is on-premise, you could use a cloud connector to get your APIs. You could also deploy back to the ABAP environment. And if you wanted to consume APIs from other LOBs, that's also possible via the service center. So yeah, in a nutshell, it does not support only S4. It does support all other LOBs, and it can even support non-SAP systems.
Thank you very much. Next, we do have a lot of questions on Joule. Does Joule consider all my code present in every project file, or will it give answers based only on specific questions?
Well, I'll take this one. It's you could say yes and no. Well, first of all, yes, it absolutely takes into account what's in your project, right? The no, is it all files in there, right? Like as I mentioned in my answer before, some parts like MTA, for example, are not yet included in Joule. This will happen. The ones that are included, though, for example, the CDS file, so everything that's CAP-based, you could already see that it's actually taking into account what's in your files already. So when I created the logic, right, about criticality and impact, Joule needs to know what's actually which entity has which field, and it needs to know all the specifics of what's in your file. What I haven't shown you, you could actually now think, oh, that's because it just remembered what it did in the first place, but that's not the case. If you if I had created like the data model and the service with Joule and then manually adjusted it and then actually went to create, would have gone to create the business logic, then it would always take into account the current CDS and the current what's currently happening in the project. Yeah, and also, as I said, some of these are already conversational, so it knows the current state always. Yeah, but not, and that's the other part, but not for every aspect of the project. Having said that, we are working on this, so we'll improve on that.
Thank you.
And that's maybe one before we go to the next thing, because it's also a usual question. Well, you know, what does Joule do better than maybe general purpose generative AI? Exactly that. It knows the whole project, right? It knows from all our main technology. It knows that the whole context, and others, you know, don't do that in that way, right? That's important. Sorry about interrupting.
Thank you very much. That was indeed important. Regarding privacy, is the code shared with SAP or any other data model outside of SAP? Is there an option to switch off sharing, etc.?
Okay, so Joule does know the project. It does consider your project files, like Tim explained, to give you a response, but we do not share your data with Joule or any models. We do not train Joule on your data. So you can be assured that your data is safe.
Thank you. Are there options to do code scan and ask to identify bugs, improvement recommendations?
Yeah. So I think Tim also mentioned that before. So we have a couple of initiatives we're working on. So to be able to ask questions on the project, for example, am I following best practices? If not, how can I improve my project? So these are topics that we understand are very important to help customers to follow best practices. And we have a couple of initiatives we're working on. And as soon as we'll have more information to share on that, we'll share it with you, of course, but we are aware this is also very important for us to deliver something like that.
Thank you. Can Build Code benefit from the vector engine in SAP HANA Cloud?
I can answer that. Well, I suppose the vector engine, that question is from someone who knows about generative AI, and especially the so-called retrieval augmented generation, where normally you would actually, before you talk to the generative AI, you would get some, well, snippets of documents from a so-called vector database, and with that give the generative AI a bit more context. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this question is whether actually the Joule that you saw makes use of that. If that's the part of the question, I can say at the moment it does not, but I kind of hinted in an answer before that we are actually, during the course of the year, will also add more capabilities with questions across BTP, and that definitely, that's in the making, will make use of a vector database. So that's the Joule that you saw. If the question now was like, can you as a developer create your own programs with Build Code, and then making use and create your own generative AI application or application that uses generative AI, can that make use of the vector database? Well, the answer is yes. It's not that we have, I have to also admit at this point, some special support for that. But what you see here in Build Code is the BTP. So everything that you can do, even though we leverage CAP and all these technologies really a lot with visual tools, you can do anything that you can do on the BTP, and anything that you can do on the BTP today means you get the generative AI services from the BTP, and you get something like a vector base from HANA, and you can connect it, right? So it's also possible in Build Code. It's just not that Build Code especially makes you much more productive in terms of the development experience that you just saw before, but it's possible, yes.
Thank you. Next question. Is it possible to consume the S4 HANA API in external resources and show that data instead of dummy data in SAP Build Code? And is there any tutorial?
Yes, I think that should be fairly straightforward. Your data that you see should come from the destination. We do provide a capability for you to add some dummy data, but that's only if you would like it. We can share the links for the tutorials. It should be straightforward.
Yeah, maybe just to add, Rupa, like this is the point where it's, I said at the beginning, I'm not going to show the integration of the S4 service. Maybe had we known that this question comes up, it would have made sense, because one feature that I also skipped in the demo, I showed a preview, this nice little green button on the top, but that's kind of the default how you get the preview. But there's also some other feature that was created. It's the run configurations, right? And run configuration is either that nice little green button where it just reads the local data, but there is also then, if I had included a service like the business partner into my application, another run configuration would have been generated for me, and that would have gone to the real service. So I can actually, even in the preview, either say, well, use the local sample data or use remote data from the S4 or whatever system, right?
Thank you. The next question is, if I create some data model using Joule, and I come back and tell Joule to add another data model, will it add the new data model, or will it replace the old one?
Yuval, you want to? Okay.
Yeah,
No,
I think
go
it's related to what I answered before. So we're working on enabling this kind of course, incremental additions to the project with high priority. So it will be available hopefully soon.
Thank you. Next one. Does SAP Build Code work with other large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, etc.? If not, how can we utilize our preferred LLM?
I can take that. At the moment, you can't. At the moment, it's fixed models that we are using. I think it's no secret. We're using a GPT. So ChatGPT, of course, like is a whole application based on GPT. We're using GPT at this point, but SAP in general, not only for this, you might know already, offers other large language models, and you can also bank on it that it will be possible to actually exchange, and you can also bank on us actually also looking out for the very best that we can do in a lot of aspects. Once A, for what comes out of it, and B, also of course in this area price is important. So we'll be on the top of the game with all of this as much as possible.
Thank you. Can we expect TDD access for partners?
Okay. So TDD access for partners is something that we are working on. I cannot commit to exact timelines, but our endeavor is to make sure that we have TDD access for partners as soon as possible. So you should expect that to come very soon.
Great. Next one, can we use destination servers using Joule, or do we need to add the destination manually?
I can take this again. I suppose the question is about like adding the destination manually, for example, for a S4 service and so on. So it's something that you see in the service center. This is, of course, something that we already know is also very important, right? Because it's such a complicated process. We don't have it yet in the tool, but again, it's something that we would have on our wish list also to make it possible to help people setting up all this stuff on the B2P in a much easier way. But at the moment, you would have to manually create at least a destination to access the APIs. Yeah.
Thank you. How does SAP Build Code relate to Clean Core?
Yes, so I have a couple of slides on that. I can try to share it. Okay. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, just a second. Okay. Okay, so I try to really make it simple. So I guess many of you can relate to this these icons of iOS versions, those of you who are running iPhones. So you get these nice innovations for your mobile devices every year. It's really a big event where at least I, every morning after the announcement, looking for the update to get all these exciting features from my device and all the innovations. Some of the innovations are even coming, you know, overnight or between one meeting to the other one. So it's really kind of a part of our day-to-day life on a personal level, right? When we look on SAP, a very prominent and famous innovation is SAP Fiori UI innovation, which is targeting to help the end users of SAP to be more productive. So it started over 10 years ago and evolved since then. And surely it was changing the way SAP customers are interacting with SAP systems. So again, very important innovation. And of course, the business process innovations from R2 until S4 and RISE with SAP. So all of that is also very important to keep your business processes up to date and relevant to the changing innovations. And so the key point here is that in order to be able to get these innovations at the pace that you want and not making it a very long-lasting and tedious and costly activity, you need to keep your core clean, meaning it needs to be as standard and untouched as possible without manual changes which are not allowed and will cost a lot to migrate your and upgrade your core systems along the way. So if you keep it clean, and we will help you to keep it clean with the Build Code extension tools, you will get the fast innovations at a low cost and accurate data for your analytics and insights. And with basically with SAP Build Code, we have the set of tools and runtime services that helps you to extend your S4 environments without and keeping your core clean. And these are mainly the full stack extensions or the UI only extensions and other scenarios that are coming together with SAP Build Code, together with the runtime services that we deliver. So that's the long answer for that question.
Thank you very much. Oh, another question. The CPA price is €1 per a capacity unit. How are we defining capacity unit here?
Yeah, so I can take that. So what Build Code does, as we mentioned several times, there are a number of services included. For example, Joule, but I said document service, in the back, Cloud Foundry, the Business Application Studio, and so on. And the consumption of all of these is translated in capacity units, right? Of course, like it's different how a user in the Business Application Studio is translated in capacity units than for example, storage in the document service, but it all in a transparent way for you as a customer. It is also translated into capacity units, and you then pay according to that consumption. And that also means, like, and that is similar to CPA as such, what you had before with CPA. That basically means that you only pay for what you're consuming, right? So, for example, you could go ahead and use Build Code just by using the Business Application Studio or nothing else of it, and then you would just pay for this. Yeah, that's the important bit. The main difference, I would say, to, you could say classic CPA is that we have just one metric, right, which is the capacity unit, and not one for each and every service. Okay.
Thank you. I hope this answers the question. Next question. I think this is also for you, Tim. If the user cannot impact the underlying large language model in Joule, and at the same time we use some grounding RAG, how can access to information be managed?
Well, again, the question seems to be, I suppose that's by the same person that came up with the other question before.
Right, yes.
So this really leads me to, I wasn't too sure the first time, is it about what can you do? Are we using a vector database for Joule in BAS, or can you as a developer create an application using the vector database? Now with this question, I think it's not about what I've shown you. It's not about Joule in BAS. It's about your capabilities. Can you create an application that chooses a special LLM and then uses a vector database and does grounding or retrieval augmented generation with it? And the answer to this is, I think you understood me the wrong way in the first part of the answer. When I said you can't choose your LLM, I meant Joule in BAS. Joule in BAS comes with a certain LLM. It uses GPT. But you as a developer, if you create a new application that wants to make use of a large language model, yes, you can actually choose different LLMs. You find if you go, if you explore what the generative AI services from BTP have to offer, you find other large language models as well, right? So for this you can actually choose it, right?
It's called the AI core service, right?
The AI core service. The AI core service provides different large language models. To make a prominent example, you can decide whether GPT 3.5 or 4.0 or just 4, and there is other large language models available. But that's if you program your application. The built-in feature by Joule at the moment, you can't actually choose. We have something underneath, and it's actually something that I could say you don't need to know because we're just providing the result for you, right?
Thank you. I think there's still some uncertainty about how Joule need to be paid for. So one question was, do we need to explicitly subscribe to the SAP Build service to do hands-on with Joule, or can we directly access it from BAS, which is already subscribed previously? And the other one is, does Joule consume CPA credits, or is it included in the BAS subscription?
Yuval, you want to clarify that again?
For the how can we access Joule? Then again, you need to have SAP Build Code. If you have an existing BAS instance, license, you would be able to migrate your existing BAS instance to SAP Build Code. And we will, so currently today you cannot still do that, but shortly we will announce that this is possible, and we will share all the details for that. Until then, you can, if you want to play around, you can use either use a trial or free tier, and wait for the coming migration offering, which is coming really soon.
Great. Thank you so much. We are on top of the hour. So in case you have any further questions, please post them in the comment area underneath this video. And with this, I would like to thank our experts so much for your time and effort in answering all the questions. And of course, I would like to thank our attendees for joining. I hope you got a lot of value from the session, and I look forward to seeing you again in our next Ask Me Anything or other session. Have a great evening, everyone.